She's a hardworking medical professional who adores her kids.
She was just a doting, bragging mother. They were her world.
That's what she wanted to do. She loved the hospital. She loved the crew.
Her family expects her home after work, but she never returns.
She walked out the exit door, goes out into the parking lot. No one was around her. Nobody was forcing her to do anything.
Security video soon reveals that she may have been keeping secrets.
You could see it in her eyes, the way she would talk, that she had a crush on him.
Leaving investigators and her family in a desperate race to uncover the truth.
A lot of the stuff just don't make sense to me. It's like a puzzle. Where do I begin to search? Where is she?
I was scared. We thought it was Holly, you know. What if it was?
I didn't know what to think. I was just like, well, maybe she's out here. I still feel like she's out there, and I still feel like she's gonna come home.
January 20th, 2017. It's an unseasonably mild Friday morning in McAlester, Oklahoma. And 40-year-old Holly Cantrell is making breakfast for her family. Her husband Tommy and their two sons, 12-year-old Wesley and 14-year-old Zachary.
Holly was a very good mother, had a lot of patience. She loved doing outdoor activities with her kids. She was all about her kids.
Holly also has an 18-year-old son named Trenton from a previous marriage who's away at college.
We had a good relationship. We were always together. We never had any issues. We never fought. We were always close.
McAlester, in southeast Oklahoma, is surrounded by lakes and trails. And the entire family enjoys their rural lifestyle.
We did a lot of family stuff together. We trapped, we hunt, we fished. We did a lot of stuff together. We go out and just like go out bowling. We didn't really ever do anything individually. We all like being together. She hated being cooped in the house. We'd eat dinner and the first thing, if y'all ready to go outside, let's go do something outside. She doesn't want to sit in the house. She likes to go do stuff. Just love being active.
She loved just being plain and simple. She wasn't a very glamorous person.
The Cantrells share their property with an eclectic group of animals, including miniature donkeys, goats, and a pet raccoon.
Loved them. They're her babies. She loved taking care of them. Like, every time we'd have like a new baby, she'd always go out there. Like, it'd be 2 o'clock in the morning, she'd be out there taking care of it, making sure everything was okay.
Holly was born in California as the second oldest of 5 children. At 11, she went to live in Oklahoma with her grandmother and an aunt. Her cousin Charlesie was just 1 year younger than Holly, and the two girls became like sisters.
We were probably the closest out of all of the cousins and sisters and brothers. Oh boy, we got in a lot of trouble. There was an old plum tree out back, and we weren't supposed to go that far, and we'd always sneak out there. We always got caught.
My best memory is Holly and my daughter riding their bicycles with Cabbage Patch Kids in the basket with headphones up and down, because we lived on a road that didn't have a lot of houses, and just up and down the road. But she was, you know, willing to help anybody, do anything, even at that age. She was a good girl, really good girl. And she had the best laugh. It came from the gut when she laughed. It was deep.
I looked up to Holly. I think all of us did. I think she was the only one who was had it together in our family.
She was the captain of the cheerleading, very beautiful person. She was a very genuine person, and I really loved my sister for that.
In 1999, when she was 23 and he was 46, Holly met her current husband, Tommy. Soon after, her first marriage to Trenton's father came to an end.
And I remember going to her work and her talking about this Tommy guy. He started swooping in on her.
When they got together, Tommy and Holly's family grew by leaps and bounds. Tommy had 3 children from previous marriages. His daughter, Charity, had a son named Michael when she was 15, whom Holly helped bring up.
When she got with Tommy, he was raising Michael. So she, of course, stepped in, was the stepmom, and she was good to Michael. She treated him like he was one of her own. She loved Michael. She would brag on him.
According to her family, Holly saw Tommy as an anchor in her life at a difficult time. He was older and offered security for her and 2-year-old Trenton.
He was her knight in shining armor. He promised her the world and he was providing it, you know.
She had that little perfect life. The kids, the farm, the husband. She had a good heart. She loved everybody. She never met anybody really that she didn't, want to befriend.
On that Friday morning in January, Holly reminds Tommy that they have plans together for later.
Everyone got up. Holly took the boys to the bus stop like she normally does. Came home and got ready for work. And before leaving for work, gave Tommy a kiss on the forehead and told him that they needed to go get groceries when she returned home from work.
For the past year, Holly has been a physical therapy tech at the McAllister Regional Health Center. It's a career change that's been many years in the making.
She went to school part-time. I think it took her like 5, 6, 7 years to part-time, going to school at night, finally getting her degree so she can do what she wanted to do.
Holly loved her job. I never heard any complaints out of her. She was happy she got that job. She had worked hard for it.
I remember her telling me green is her favorite color, and that's the color for scrubs, and it was her favorite thing to do, and she looked forward to it every day.
Just before 7:30 a.m., Holly drives her truck into the hospital's staff parking lot. She heads inside and spends the next 4 hours working with patients.
Patients in her department, like they would people have like knee replacements, hip replacements, and she would help therapy them and like move them back right after surgery, get them in and out of bed, dress them like when they got out of surgery. She looked forward to going to work every day and like helping people. She loved helping people.
A few minutes before noon, Holly leaves the building and heads toward her truck. Hours pass. The hospital is about a 15-minute drive from Holly's home.
Tommy was expecting her to be home shortly after work where they could go grocery shopping.
But dinner time rolls around, and Holly never comes home or calls to say where she is. Tommy tries her cell phone, but she doesn't pick up. Worried, he decides to try and find her.
It was later in the evening on the 20th when Tommy went to the hospital to look for her.
When he arrives at the staff parking lot, Tommy is immediately troubled by what he sees.
Tommy went to the McAllister Regional Health Center where Holly worked at and found her truck in the parking lot, and she was not at work. He called the police department from the hospital parking lot while they were by Holly's truck and made the report that she had not returned home and that she was not at work. He just knew something must be wrong.
Tommy sounded a little scared. He couldn't find Holly. Where's Holly?
On January 20th, 2017, 40-year-old Holly Cantrell left her job at McAllister Regional Health Center at 11:56 a.m. She hasn't been seen by her family in the past 12 hours, and her truck appears to be abandoned at work. Her husband Tommy heads to the McAllister police station, where an officer gathers information from him, but doesn't immediately open a missing persons case.
Typically, when someone doesn't return home from work or there's not a circumstance that someone was kidnapped, we generally wait 24 hours before filing an official police report.
Tommy drives back to the hospital parking lot. He gets inside Holly's truck with a spare key and, finding nothing amiss, drives it back home. Later, at the house, Tommy calls anyone he can think of who might know where Holly could be, but no one's heard from her. Police wonder if Holly may have been captured on one of the security cameras outside the hospital. Security personnel comb through hours of footage, and they get a hit. The video reveals several angles of Holly exiting the hospital and walking into the parking lot.
Nothing looked out of normal routine for Holly. She walked out the exit door where she normally scans her badge to exit out, goes out into the parking lot, walking on her own.
But the video contains a couple of big surprises for the police. Holly told her husband that she was working until 4:30 p.m., but the security camera shows her leaving the hospital a little before noon. And once she's in the parking lot, Holly doesn't walk toward her own pickup truck. She approaches another nearby vehicle.
No one was around her. Nobody was forcing her to do anything. And she walks out, gets into a green Dodge pickup.
The video clearly shows a man step out of the green truck. Seconds later, the truck pulls out of the parking lot with Holly inside. This appears to be the last time Holly was seen. Police now have an urgent focus to their investigation: identify and locate the driver of the green truck. Meanwhile, word that Holly is missing spreads quickly among her family and friends. Her oldest son, Trenton, first hears the news from his father, Holly's ex-husband.
It was around 9 o'clock in the morning when he woke me up and said, "Hey, you might want to try to contact your mom. They're looking for her." I have no clue what went through my mind except for to contact her, try to get a hold of her. I think I called her like 15 times that day, and there was no answer. The phone was turned off. And then I called Tommy and I asked him what was going on, and he told me what he knew.
By late Saturday, Holly has been missing for more than 24 hours, and her husband Tommy officially files a missing persons report. He tells police he has no idea what could have happened to his wife of 16 years.
He was at a loss. Holly seemed to be his world. And going back and thinking what could have happened to her, he just didn't have an answer. He didn't have any idea of why anybody would want to do anything to Holly.
That same night, Holly's son Trenton drives with his dad to the McAllister police station.
I went up to the police station and made sure the police report was filed and all of that, just to make sure we could get the steps in motion, get a detective on the case to find her. It was just confusion. Like, I watch the investigation channel all the time, and this can't happen to me. None of this can happen to me. And it's just like, wow, this is actually happening.
Trenton's father gives police a key piece of information about Holly's past. He says that 16 years earlier, Holly walked out on her marriage to him without a word or any warning at all.
He told us that she went to work one day with their 2-year-old son and never returned home. Didn't tell him where she was going or anything like that, and then she was later found with her current husband, Tommy.
Others in Holly's family, including her sister Alice, tell investigators that account is true, but there's a major difference.
Her first husband, she did leave, but the day that she left him, the next day she went and filed for divorce. She She didn't disappear. She left and came to my grandma's house. Everybody knew where she was when she left the first time.
Regardless of the exact circumstances, police wonder if Holly may have run away with someone again. Most likely, whoever was driving the green truck. They dive deeper into their investigation of Holly's personal life and uncover a secret.
We learned from a coworker in the physical therapy department that Holly had a boyfriend that she had been seeing. That boyfriend that Holly was seeing was identified as Cody Ketchum.
Cody Ketchum, who is married and 10 years younger than Holly, had been a family friend of Tommy's for decades.
Cody was normally at some of the family functions they did together as far as going to these auctions.
She mentioned Cody quite often, but it was always working the cows, or he was helping around their ranch, or they would all go out and the families knew each other. She never said nothing about being intimate with him, but you could see it in her eyes, the way she would talk, that she had a crush on him.
According to Holly's coworkers, in recent months, the relationship between Cody and Holly developed into something more, without her husband's knowledge.
They advised me that she had plans to meet Cody that afternoon and spend the afternoon with him, knew that he was going to pick her up around lunchtime.
Police take a closer look at the security footage from the hospital parking lot. And with the help of Holly's son, Trenton, the facts begin to fall into place.
I knew she hung out with Cody. Because, like, we went bowling one night, and I knew Cody's truck. When they told me the description of the truck, I was like, yeah, that's Cody's truck. And then they were like, how do you know? And I just told them, I just know.
Cody Ketchum immediately becomes the first person of interest in Holly's disappearance, and McAllister police scramble to locate him. In the meantime, one of Holly's close friends confirms that she was having a relationship with Cody and makes a startling disclosure.
After visiting with coworkers at the hospital, it was brought to our attention that Holly was possibly pregnant.
It's been 48 hours since Holly Cantrell was captured on security video, hopping into a green pickup truck from her hospital's parking lot. Her family and friends have not seen her since. McAllister police are on the lookout for 30-year-old Cody Ketchum, who allegedly has been having an affair with Holly.
We received information that Holly would sometimes take a half day off of work to spend the afternoon with Cody, and then later go back home to her family.
Within hours, police track Cody down at home. He confirms that he was the man in the green truck in the hospital parking lot, but he says he has no idea where Holly could be. He tells police that the last time he saw her was at a restaurant called Brahms.
He told us that he picked Holly up that day from the hospital and took her to Brahms on Highway 69 and dropped her off in the parking lot, that Holly had plans to eat lunch with friends, and that he was later going to return and pick her up.
Cody says that he and Holly had a date for that afternoon, after her lunch. But a little later, he got back in touch to cancel.
He sent her a text that afternoon that says that he wasn't going to be able to spend the day with her. And Holly replies back to him via text message saying she would just go ahead and go back to work for the rest of the day. And that was the last communication that Holly had with anyone.
Cody says Holly told him she would get her own ride back to the hospital. And that was the last he heard from her.
Cody seemed really concerned about Holly's disappearance. He was willing to do anything and everything he could to help find Holly.
Cody tells police that he and Holly have been seeing each other for about 8 months and often met during the workday, as they did the day she went missing. And she'd told him she was expecting a baby.
Holly told Cody that she was pregnant, and he did believe that the baby was his.
According to police, Cody's account of the last day he spent with Holly checks out.
Cody voluntarily brought his phone into the detective division, where he gave us free rein to search his phone, do an electronic download of his phone. Anything we needed, he was willing to let us do. Everything with Cody's phone checked out to the same story that he had initially told us about Holly.
To vet Cody's story, Detective Rogers pulls Holly's phone records.
We were able to verify and match up what Cody Ketchum had told us about their conversation and what had went on.
Despite Cody's cooperation and cell phone evidence that seems to support his story, police say there is something that doesn't add up. Holly never appears on Brahm's security camera video from inside the restaurant that day.
We had no witnesses that seen her at Brahm's, no employees at Brahm's that had seen her. The only information we have about Brahm's is Cody telling us that's where he dropped her off at.
Although some of Holly's coworkers tell police they knew she was going to meet Cody, investigators can't find any friends who had a lunch date with Holly on the day she vanished.
We talked to everyone we knew that she worked with or anyone that she was friends with, and nobody had plans to meet her that day at Brahm's.
But the restaurant security cameras don't cover the parking lot where Cody says he dropped her off. Detectives find themselves at an impasse. They can't prove or disprove that Cody dropped Holly off at Brahm's restaurant. All they have is Cody's word. Police say they have no evidence to connect Cody to Holly's disappearance, and Cody maintains his innocence, but he still remains a person of interest in the case. Hoping to determine Holly's last known location, detectives try to pinpoint where she last used her phone.
The last time we were able to do a location of Holly's phone, it pinged off of the McAllister downtown tower, which could be a pretty good sized radius anywhere around the city limits of McAllister that her phone could have been located.
Since Holly's house, the hospital, and Brahm's all fall within the city limits, the ping gives detectives no new information. Sifting through Holly's phone history, police are able to find proof that her friends and family were desperate to reach her on the day she was last seen.
There were numerous text messages and phone calls sent to Holly's phone by family members and Cody trying to check on her, but there was never any phone calls or texts sent back to anyone that was texting or calling her.
Detectives discovered that the day after she went missing, Holly lost the ability to respond to incoming texts and calls.
Holly's phone was suspended on January 21st, 2017, and from that point on, we weren't able to track anything on the phone.
Holly's husband, Tommy, tells police he doesn't know anything about her phone being cut off, and that Holly pays all the bills for the family. In light of her affair with Cody, police have to consider whether Tommy could have been involved in his wife's disappearance. Tommy admits to police that he did sometimes wonder about Cody.
Cody was a friend of the family, and he was normally at some of the family functions they did. And Tommy told us, just seeing the interaction between Holly and Cody when they would be around each other, he had some suspicion that something could be going on.
According to police, Tommy tells them that despite her infidelity, he would never do anything to harm his wife.
You could tell that he was hurt that she was seeing someone else, but Tommy was really concerned for Holly and her safety.
But police say Holly's side of the family has a very different take on her relationship with Tommy. They say that in recent years, The marriage hasn't been a happy one, and Holly's affair with Cody was proof of that.
You really don't know what goes on inside of a marriage except the two people that's in that marriage. But some days she seemed fine, happy. Other days, no. In the last couple of years, not happy at all.
Hearing that my sister was in a relationship outside of her marriage didn't surprise me. I knew she wasn't happy in her marriage as a soulmate. I don't think Tommy was that. I think that she was looking for someone to make her happy.
Holly's family says that over time, Tommy became more controlling, pressuring her to spend less time with them and more with him.
Holly was very alienated, but ever since she married him, that's the way that she's been. We still talked, everybody talked to her, but as far as like coming over and visiting her Christmas and stuff, none of that would ever happen.
A little bit of time would go by, and you could tell that he was pulling her away from us. When I would go over there, you could tell she would start watching the clock, you know, he's gonna be home. You could tell she would start getting nervous.
Holly's sister Maya says that just a few months earlier, Tommy's control over her sister caused them to have a falling out. At the time, Maya was receiving outpatient treatment in the hospital where Holly worked.
I had asked her if she could come over on her break from the hospital and come see me, or, you know, after work. And she had more important things to do, that Tommy was really sick and she needed to see him first. And so she didn't have time for me. And I hung up from the phone from talking to her, and I remember getting upset. So I called her back and told her not to worry about me, that I wasn't important enough to come see, to go and, you know, take care of her husband first. And that was the last time I talked to her.
But Tommy insists he and Holly have a healthy marriage.
Talking with Tommy, you know, him and Holly's relationship seemed to be a good relationship. Tommy really never gave us any indication about any flaws or anything going on in their marriage.
According to detectives, he gives them full access to search his property and personal records.
We searched Tommy's phone and his phone records. Tommy gave us full consent to any of their property or their home or anything that we wanted to search or go through.
McAllister police decide they don't have cause to warrant a search of Tommy and Holly's home. Despite the conflict within the family, investigators can find nothing to connect Tommy to his wife's disappearance.
Through this investigation, Tommy has been very genuine and keeping tabs on what's going on with the case, wanting to know if there's new information, wanting to know what he can do or what the family can do to assist us and bringing Holly home.
5 weeks pass with no credible leads in Holly's disappearance. Until one day in late February, when a hunter stumbles across a vital clue 12 miles from where Holly was last seen.
The purse was just thrown a little ways off the roadway. It wasn't concealed, but it appeared that somebody just pulled up on the roadway, maybe got out of the truck, walked a little ways into the woods and tossed the purse out. Most of Holly's belongings were in the purse. There were some credit cards, her ID, you know, personal items that a woman would carry in her purse.
And I'm going, okay, we got some lead, something.
I didn't know what to think. I was just like, well, maybe she's out here.
Five weeks after 40-year-old Holly Cantrell was last seen, the lead detective on the case gets a surprising phone call.
On February 25th, 2017, I received a call from the Pittsburgh County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Chris Morris, advising that there was a hunter out in the Cardinal Point area that had located a purse in the woods while he was hunting that belonged to Holly Cantrell.
Cardinal Point Recreation Area is about a dozen miles north of the hospital where Holly works, on Lake Eufaula, where her family often went fishing and camping. Holly's identification cards are found with her purse, along with medications that she needed to take every day for serious health problems, including a heart condition.
When I found out that her medicine was in there, I was stunned. You can disappear if you want to, with no money, no clothes. You can manage. But when you've got health issues and you're on life-saving medicine, you're going to take it.
For investigators, Holly's purse being dumped in the woods indicates a possibly violent scenario in her disappearance. Authorities also discover some fact sheets about pregnancy in Holly's purse, but no cell phone. And conditions at the lake suggest Holly's body hasn't been dumped there.
When we came out here, the lake was very low, even lower than it is now. So if she had been thrown in the lake, we believe that her body would have floated up by now.
Police examine the purse, hoping it will yield a new clue or direction.
We looked through it for any important information or anything, any type of letter that she may have left for someone of why she was gone. We didn't find anything in the purse that led us any further into the investigation than what we had already gotten to. It had some items that belonged to her children in there, and after some discussion, we felt that we should return the purse to Holly's husband.
But some of Holly's family members feel police should have held on to her purse as possible evidence or for DNA testing.
You don't just give it back to the husband. You might take the medical cards out or personal papers that you might need for the boys, but you don't give the purse back, not with everything in it. Isn't it evidence? 10 years from now, we might have different DNA things. We don't know.
When the police gave the purse back to Tommy, I was just furious. I mean, at that point, you're pretty much saying that you've given up with it.
In the months since Holly went missing, the divide between her side of the family and Tommy's has widened. Holly's loved ones say they think strife within her immediate family may have had something to do with her disappearance. They tell police that Holly's relationship with Tommy's 45-year-old daughter, Charity, was a constant source of tension.
Holly and Charity's relationship was bad from the get-go. Holly did not like Charity, and Charity did not like Holly.
Holly's relatives also allege that before she disappeared, Holly and Tommy had been arguing about his will. Specifically, they say, because Tommy planned to leave all his property to Charity's son Michael, his grandson, and nothing to the two boys he'd had with Holly.
Holly and Tommy supposedly got into a fight before she went missing. From what they say, he told her that he was going to take everything and put it in Michael's name.
And Holly said, you can't do that. You can't cut out your sons. And they got into an argument about him cutting out everybody but his grandson.
But Tommy says the allegations are completely false. Not only did the argument never happen, but he doesn't even have a will. He continues to maintain that there weren't any problems with his marriage. In a conversation between Charity and a local McAllister journalist, recorded 3 weeks after Holly disappeared, Charity says that she and Holly got along just fine.
She's younger than I am, you know, but we didn't have no problems. We didn't talk every single day, you know, but we talked maybe twice a week. We never had any problems with her.
McAllister police investigators say there's no evidence of a conflict between Charity and Holly, or an argument over Tommy's will.
There was discussion about that, but we never come up with any type of fight that anybody got into over land or property or anything like that.
As investigators try to track down any leads in Holly's disappearance, a local woman named Luann Woolley takes a special interest in the case.
Luann Woolley kind of showed up on Facebook, and she said that she just felt that she needed to help us, that she'd had a daughter that had passed away, and it just kind of bloomed from there, and I was willing to listen to anybody. She would give me tips and call me and leave me messages. At one point, she searched behind and around Brahms on her own free will just because that was the last place that Holly was supposedly seen.
Luann Woolley knew a lot, you know. She just appeared like an angel, you know what I mean?
Luann posts her opinions on a Facebook page dedicated to helping find Holly.
I'm not sure it was really theories, but she definitely called people out on what she thought and what needed to be done, and she was hushed a lot.
One day, nearly 2 months after Holly went missing, Luann comes to police with what she says is more than just her opinion. Evidence that proves foul play in Holly's disappearance.
Luann provided us with a recording that she had taken while she was in that home. She had been in a residence here in McAllister where people were talking about Holly's death and that she had been murdered.
In mid-March 2017, nearly 2 months after Holly Cantrell mysteriously went missing in McAllister, Oklahoma, a local woman named Luann Woolley calls police with what she thinks is important evidence in the case.
She was calling and passing along information that she thought may be factual or help us with a lead in the disappearance of Holly.
Luann tells police that her husband Raymond overheard a man in a house talking about Holly's death. She then secretly recorded a conversation between herself, Raymond, and this unidentified man.
There's a lot of distortion. You can make out some words. Somebody's saying that they had witnessed something about a whale.
I don't know what they were talking. Yeah, I don't know what all was said, you know. If it was true or not, I don't know. I just told you.
Luann says the unidentified man heard that Holly's body had been put in a well. Police examine the recording, but they're not able to glean useful clues from it or authenticate Luann's story. They ultimately conclude that Luann is an unreliable source.
She talked in circles a lot and would go back and forth from, one lead she thought she may have to another. Speaking with Luann, the most solid thing that we could get out of her was the house that she apparently made the recording in where they were talking about Holly's death. And we never were able to find what house that she was talking about or where she was at the time of this recording or who the people in the house were that she was talking to.
Investigators don't authorize a search of any wells, and the lead is deemed to be a dead end. Then, just 2 weeks later, Detective Rogers receives shocking news about Luann Woolley.
On March 30th, I got a call from Raymond, Luann's husband. He actually called from Luann's cell phone and told me that Luann had killed herself.
Luann's husband discovered her body in a barn on their property. The medical examiner's office rules her death a suicide by hanging, but some members of Holly's family say they find Luann's death suspicious.
I thought maybe something had happened to her, not just a suicide or anything. I didn't know. I was just scared for what had happened to her.
That same month, Holly's family gets news they have been dreading. Teens playing in a creek in Muskogee, about 60 miles from McAllister, stumble across human remains.
That was probably the most nauseated I've ever been in years. I just knew it was Holly. It was just in my gut. I was like, I just hope it is. over with, and I don't have to worry about the horrible things that they've done to her. Now that she can be put to peace.
Local news reports on the discovery, but the body is not immediately identified.
I was scared. We thought it was Holly. We were scared that it what if it was?
Holly's family waits for hours for more information. Finally, authorities issue an update. It isn't Holly Cantrell. Fingerprint records identify the body as a local 55-year-old woman who went missing from the area just a few weeks earlier. Her death is ruled an accidental drowning.
There's been several bodies found and bones found since my mom's been missing. None of it's ever showed up to be anything with her. I follow it just in case it winds up being her, but I don't look too much into it because I don't want it to be her body.
Springtime comes and goes, and no new leads come in to investigators or Holly's family. Her loved ones say they're still reeling from their loss and the total lack of answers in her disappearance.
You stay up all night and you play everything over in your head. Where? I go on my porch sometimes and just stand there. Where do I begin to search? Where is she? And then you have this little flicker in the back of your brain. Well, maybe, just maybe she ran away. But as time goes by, that flicker is burnt out. Because I knew she would never leave those boys.
Not all of Holly's family members feel that she's gone forever.
I don't want to say it's a runaway. I don't want to say it's a homicide. I just know I think she's going to come home.
Holly's loved ones all agree on one thing. Her absence is acutely felt in their lives, each and every day.
Holly was my role model. She had one of those smiles you could never forget. She left a hole in my heart.
I'd give anything just to right now my phone ring and see her or she walk in the door. I don't want to talk to her. I want to hold her. I want to at least know that she's okay.
We just want to bring her home. Until then, we're just in limbo. We get up in the morning, that's the first thing we think of. When we go to bed, that's the first thing we think of. Where's Holly? Where's Holly?
On February 18th, 2018, human remains and the remnants of green clothing were found near Lake Eufaula, 2 miles from where Holly's purse had been recovered 1 year earlier. The remains have yet to be identified. If you have any information about Holly Cantrell or her disappearance, please call the McAllister Police Department at 918-423-1212.